Joining us now is Wilbur Chapman. Now, Wilbur has had 35 years in the NYPD, serving as Chief of Patrol and later Deputy Commissioner of Training. Thank you very much for joining us here on GBN America. I'm keen to know, to what extent has crime risen, do you think, in the last few years?
Good afternoon. Well, if we look at crime currently, it's substantially higher than it was in the pre-pandemic years of 2018 and 2019. So New York City is undergoing a crime increase, although the use of data can be quite flexible, and they like to compare it with last year, where there was a slight decline in crime compared to the year before, but it's still up in comparison to where it was prior to the pandemic.
What kind of crimes are we seeing?
We're looking at serious crime. Number one, there's a lot more violence. It's felonious assaults, attacks on people, forcible robberies, shootings and homicides have gone down slightly, but that's not really the bellwether. In addition to that, there's been a huge increase because of change in laws in property crime, where you see recidivists basically looting stores over and over again, being arrested and then turned loose again. So there's a genuine sense that, as some say, New York City is the safest big city in the world, except if you're a victim of crime. So this all gives to a sense of insecurity on the part of people who work there and live there, and a concern as to whether or not the laws changed to benefit the criminals rather than to benefit law enforcement and the population at large.
What are some of the issues behind this? I mean, apparently last month there was quite a brutal attack on 2 New York police officers that saw 7 migrants arrested. Are issues at the southern border actually having an issue in New York as well?
Well, they certainly are on a number of levels. New York City has always been a sanctuary city, but has never been called upon to activate it. So as a result, when the migrant situation developed and people from the southern border came up, the city was ill-prepared to process people and care for them. In addition to which, we've had an ongoing problem for the last 30 years. The shelter system in New York City has been an absolute disaster, where homeless people and those with mental issues who were had no place to go after the state institutions were closed in the late 70s, early 80s, would prefer to be on the train and be on the street than be in the homeless shelter system, because it doesn't support their needs and they don't feel safe, or to have ongoing, or is there an apparatus to give ongoing treatment to those who have psychological issues. The city has failed in this regard for years, and now it's showing itself in the manifestation of crime, homelessness in the subways, and just a sense of no one is paying attention to the neediest, and as a result, the general population is suffering.
I'm hearing reports as well of actually imported crime, gangs, specifically from Venezuela, and I believe this might be linked to drugs. Is that an issue?
Well, it seems to be that this Venezuelan gang, there's information going out that they may be trying to form an alliance with MS-13, which is an established gang that's plagued part of Long Island in New York State, and has some tentacles or attempting to establish some tentacles in the city itself. With every population, no matter who it is, there's always that percentage of people that are lawless, and they're coming through the same way they have in other immigrant groups in the past. And it really doesn't seem to be anything exceptional, other than right now, with crime going up, gang activity can only exacerbate that.
And you mentioned earlier on about the laws. I was going to ask you, look, what's causing all of this crime? I mean, obviously importing criminals is not going to help as well. But you mentioned a bit there about the legal system and people, repeat offenders being repeatedly allowed out. I know I see videos of people just going in and shoplifting. You only do that if you really do not fear the law. So what's happening there? What's causing all of this?
There was a change in state law in terms of bail reform on one hand, and getting rid of immunity, situational immunity for police officers. So if police officers took action and it wasn't deemed appropriate, they wouldn't be indemnified. So that caused some hesitancy. But on the other side, in order to overcompensate for what local legislators thought was an unfair bail policy and incarceration policy, they erred on the side of being much too lenient. Unless someone commits a heinous crime, a very vicious crime, violent crime, they can't be held without bail or high bail set. So all of these property crimes, is the ones I articulated before, those breaking into stores and looting, doing other things, they're property crimes. So as a result, these people who commit these crimes are being released on their own recognizance, and they're coming back and becoming recidivists. So you have a small segment of the population that are repeat offenders, but there's nothing being done to them. And as anybody who knows in law enforcement, if there are no consequences, you will have repeated behavior. And these recidivists are not only causing havoc on the merchants in the city of New York, they're creating a problem where people in general feel that if they are attacked or accosted in any way, there's no recourse through the legal system. The legislature has to go back and revise this in a way that's fair, so someone who was arrested for stealing a bag of potato chips isn't put away for 4 years pending trial. But by the same token, someone who commits a crime 7, 8, 9 times has a proclivity for lawless behavior, and they certainly should be held on either high bail or remanded without the possibility of being released until trial, just for the good of society.
Yeah, for the good of society. But for the good of society, you need people to feel confident that they can walk the streets without facing criminality. They need to feel confident that if they do call the police are going to act. The police need to feel confident that they're going to be backed up by the full force of the law as well, and that these problems aren't going to be exacerbated by external factors such as the importation of foreign crime as well. Look, Wilbur, thank you very much. I could talk to you all day about this, but we've really set the world to rights there, and I look forward to having you back on at GBN America at some point very, very soon. That is the wonderful Wilbur Chapman there. Thank you.